He laughed the moment she walked in, small, quiet, harmless. Just a tiny Earth girl at a room full of towering alien cadets. But the moment the scanners activated, the laughter stopped. Warning lights flashed. The hazard alarm screamed. And every system in the room flagged one terrifying classification. EARTH, hazard level 7. He thought she was weak. Until he learned what her planet really produces. The underestimation. The diplomatic vessel. Concordance. Cut through the darkness of space like a silver needle threading through black fabric. Inside its polished corridors, representatives from 24 species prepared for what many hoped would be a historic peace summit. The war between the Kryn Empire and the Talash Coalition had dragged on for 3 cycles, and finally both sides had agreed to negotiate. The Galactic Council had assembled its best diplomats, translators, and mediators for this crucial mission. Among them was Maya Chen, and she was having a very long day. Maya stood in the briefing room, her small frame dwarfed by the massive conference table that dominated the space. At 5'3", she was used to being the shortest person in most rooms back on Earth. Out here, among species that averaged 7 to 9 feet tall, she felt like a child who had wandered into an adults-only meeting. Her black hair was pulled into a neat bun, and she wore the standard diplomatic uniform of the Galactic Council, a fitted gray suit with the Council's insignia on the shoulder. She'd been reviewing the negotiation parameters on her datapad when the Kryn delegation arrived. Commander Vexter entered the room like a force of nature. He stood 8.5 feet tall, his body covered in dark blue scales that looked like they could deflect small arms fire. 4 muscular arms extended from his torso, each one ending in 3-fingered hands that could crush steel. His face was angular and predatory, with golden eyes that seemed to catalog everything as either threat or prey. He wore the ceremonial armor of a Kryn war commander, all sharp edges and battle honors etched into the metal. Behind him came 3 other Kryn officers, equally imposing, equally decorated with the scars and medals of seasoned warriors. Vexter, golden eye, swept the room and landed on Maya. He stopped walking. For a moment, he simply stared at her, his expression shifting from curiosity to confusion to something that looked uncomfortably like amusement. Then he laughed. It wasn't a polite chuckle or a diplomatic acknowledgement of humor. It was a deep, booming laugh that echoed off the walls and made everyone in the room turn to look. The laughter died down, but the smirk remained on Vexter's face as he approached the table. He spoke in Galactic Common, his voice carrying the rough accent of his homeworld. "This is a diplomat? A small creature? I have seen younglings on Krindal larger than this." He gestured at Maya with one of his lower arms, the movement dismissive and casual. "Tell me, Council, is this some sort of jest? Do you mock these negotiations by sending children to conduct them?" Maya felt every eye in the room turn toward her. She'd experienced this before, countless times since humanity had joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago. The assumptions, the dismissals, the barely concealed contempt. She took a slow breath, centering herself the way her grandmother had taught her during meditation sessions back in San Francisco. When she spoke, her voice was calm and level, carrying none of the irritation she felt. "Commander Vexter, I'm Maya Chen, representative of Earth and assigned negotiator for the Galactic Council. I'm 28 years old by my planet's standards, well within the age range for diplomatic service. I've been briefed extensively on both Kryn and Talash culture, history, and current political situations. I am here to help facilitate peace talks, not to prove my physical stature meets your expectations." Vexler leaned forward, placing 2 of his 4 hands on the cable. The metal creaked under the pressure. "Earth," he said, pronouncing it like it tasted strange. "Yes, I have heard of your world. The newest members of the Council. Tell me, human, how many cycles has your species traveled the stars? How many wars have you fought among the stars? How many systems have you explored?" Maya knew where this was going, but she answered honestly. "Humans achieved interstellar travel 15 years ago. We fought no wars in space. We've explored 17 systems in our local cluster. 15 years. Vexter S. smirk widened. The Kryn have traveled the stars for 3,000 cycles. We have fought and won conflicts across 50 systems. We have explored hundreds of worlds. And the Council sends a representative from a species, barely out of their infancy to negotiate a war that has claimed millions of lives. He straightened, addressing the room now rather than just Maya. This is an insult to both the Kryn and the Kalash. One of the other species in the room, a Quilnith with 6 arms and bioluminescent patches along its carapace, spoke up, hesitantly. Commander, the human's experience is not in question. She has successfully mediated 7 disputes in the past cycle, including the territorial conflict between the Moth and the Zelix Collective. Disputes over mining rights and trade routes, Vexer said dismissively. Not real war. Not the kind of conflict that shaped civilizations. He turned back to Maya, and his expression was almost pitying. No offense intended, human, but perhaps you would be better suited to administrative duties. Record keeping, perhaps, or hospitality services. This negotiation requires individuals who understand sacrifice and the weight of true combat. Your people are too new, too soft, too ... He gestured at her again. Too small to comprehend what is at stake here. Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. It wasn't anger exactly. More like a distant, tired resignation. She'd hoped this assignment would be different. She'd hoped that maybe, just maybe, she wouldn't have to give the speech again. But clearly, Commander Vexer needed to hear it. She set down her datapad and looked up at the towering Kryn warrior with eyes that had seen their share of hardship, even if he couldn't recognize it. Commander Vexer, she said quietly, are you familiar with the Galactic Council's planetary hazard classification system? Vexler blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Of course. All Council members are educated on such matters. Worlds are rated from level 1 through level 6 based on environmental dangers, gravity, atmospheric composition, and native predators. Krindel, my homeworld, is classified as level 4, a challenging world that breeds strong warriors. That's correct, Maya said. Level 4 worlds have higher gravity than standard, dangerous weather patterns, and aggressive megafauna. Your people evolved to handle those challenges, which is why Kryn warriors are renowned throughout the galaxy for their physical prowess and combat skills. It's impressive, genuinely. But, Commander, Earth isn't classified on that scale. What do you mean? One of Vexer S. officers asked. His interest piqued despite himself. Maya pulled up a file on her datapad and projected it onto the room's main display. The Galactic Council seal appeared, followed by Earth's planetary profile. At the top, in bold lettering, was the classification, hazard level designation 7. Earth is classified as hazard level 7, Maya said. Her voice still calm but carrying a weight now that made several species in the room shift uncomfortably. We're not on the standard scale, because the standard scale doesn't go high enough. There are only 12 known planets in the explored galaxy with that designation. We're one of them. Vexler stared at the display, his smirk fading. That must be an error. An administrative overcaution. Your people look too fragile, too weak to have evolved on a true death world. We look this way because we are this way, Maya replied. Humans don't have natural armor like the Kryn. We don't have venomous spines like the Talash or multiple redundant organ systems like the Quilnith. We're soft, slow compared to many species, and we bruise easily. But, Commander, Earth spent millions of years trying to kill us, and we're still here. That should tell you something. Before Vexer could respond, the ship's alarm system erupted into life. Red lights flashed along the corridor outside, and a computerized voice announced with clinical calm, Alert. Critical system failure detected. Engine power offline. Life support operating at 40% capacity. All personnel report to emergency stations. The briefing room erupted into controlled chaos. Representatives moved quickly toward the exits, training overriding panic. Maya grabbed her datapad and headed for the door, but Vexter S. voice stopped her. What could cause such a failure? he demanded. The Concordance is one of the most advanced vessels in the fleet. Maya was already pulling up the ship's system diagnostics on her datapad, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. Multiple simultaneous failures across different systems. That's not random. That's deliberate. She looked up, her expression grim. We've been hit with an electromagnetic pulse weapon. Someone disabled the ship. The revelation Vexither's golden eyes went wide as Maya stepped past him into the line of fire. One of his massive hands shot out to grab her, to pull her back to safety, but she was already moving with a speed that surprised him. She wasn't charging at the pirates like a warrior would. She was moving laterally, her small frame slipping between gaps in the defensive line that his larger soldiers couldn't access. For a creature he dismissed as fragile and weak, she moved with startling efficiency. "Human, get back," Vexter roared, but Maya ignored him completely. She'd reached an access panel on the wall and was already tearing it open with a small multi-tool she'd pulled from her uniform pocket. Her fingers worked with practiced precision, disconnecting something inside the panel while plasma bolts sizzled through the air around her. One shot came so close that Vexter saw it singe the fabric of her sleeve, but Maya didn't even flinch. She just kept working. The pirates saw an easy target and redirected their fire toward her. Vexter felt his warrior instincts scream at him to protect the foolish human who'd just made herself the primary target. He moved to cover her, his plasma pistols blazing, but Maya's voice stopped him cold. "Don't move forward, Commander. Stay exactly where you are for 10 seconds. Trust me." Her tone left no room for argument. It was the voice of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Consequences be damned. Vexter had heard that tone before, in the voices of soldiers who'd accepted that they might die but refused to go down without taking the enemy with them. He'd never expected to hear it from a human diplomat who barely reached his chest. Maya ripped something free from the access panel. A bundle of wires and connectors that sparked and hissed in her hands. Then she ran, not away from the pirates, but toward them. Vexter watched in stunned disbelief as this tiny human charged a group of armed hostiles with nothing but a handful of wires and what appeared to be a complete death wish. The lead pirate, a scarred Vraxian with cybernetic enhancements covering half his face, laughed. "The little one wants to play? Come then, soft thing. Let me show you what happens to." He never finished the sentence. Maya dropped and slid across the smooth corridor floor, like a baseball player stealing home base, her small size allowing her to pass directly between the pirate's legs. As she slid, she jammed the sparking wires against an exposed junction box at floor level. The explosion wasn't massive, but it didn't need to be. The electromagnetic feedback from the overloaded junction surged through the corridor's metal floor plating, and every pirate standing on it convulsed as electricity coursed through their bodies. Their weapons fell from spasming hands, clattering uselessly to the deck. The Vraxian leader collapsed, smoke rising from his cybernetic implants as they fried from the electrical surge. Maya rolled clear of the blast zone and came up in a crouch, breathing hard but uninjured. Baxter and his warriors, standing on the insulated deck plating behind the junction point, had been completely unaffected. They stared at the scene before them, at the dozen pirates writhing on the ground, at the small human who just disabled an entire assault team with ship components and basic physics. "Secure them," Maya said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline that had to be flooding her system. "They'll recover in a few minutes. We need to move deeper into the ship and find out how many more there are." She looked at Vexter, and her eyes held something the Kryn commander recognized. It was the look of a soldier in combat mode, all emotion stripped away, leaving only purpose and determination. "Commander, I need your strength and your weapons. But right now, you need my knowledge of how to turn this ship into a weapon against them. Can you work with that?" Vexter found himself nodding before he consciously decided to. Something fundamental had shifted in the past 30 seconds. This wasn't a soft diplomat anymore. This was someone who understood survival at a level he was only beginning to comprehend. "What do you need?" Maya was already moving, pulling up a ship schematic on her datapad as she walked. The pirates hit us with an EMP, but it was targeted. They took out propulsion and communications, but left life support and internal systems partially functional. That means they want the ship intact, probably to ransom back to the council or sell on the black market. They'll be heading for the bridge to take control of the remaining systems. Then we intercept them, Vexter said, falling into step beside her. His warriors followed, their expressions now showing respect instead of amusement. No, Maya said. We don't have enough people to hold the bridge against a full boarding party. We let them take it. While they're busy with that, we cut off their escape route and take back the docking bay where their ships are attached. Then we trap them on the Concordance and negotiate from a position of strength. One of Vexther officers, a younger warrior named Kexron, spoke up. That strategy requires us to abandon the bridge crew. That goes against Kryn honor codes. We do not leave warriors behind. The bridge crew has reinforced doors and independent life support, Maya countered, her pace never slowing. They can hold for hours. The docking bay has neither. If the pirates secure their exit and bring reinforcements from their ships, we lose. We save more lives by taking the bay first, then working our way back to the bridge. She glanced at Kexron and her expression softened slightly. I understand honor, truly. But right now, we need to think like persistent hunters. We don't win by confronting them head-on. We win by outlasting them, by being where they don't expect us, by making them exhaust their resources while we conserve ours. Vexter considered this, his tactical mind running through the scenarios. The human strategy was sound, even if it violated his every instinct about honorable combat. Persistence hunters, he repeated. You mentioned this term earlier. Explain. They were moving through maintenance corridor now, away from the main routes where pirates would be concentrating their forces. Maya led them with confidence, clearly familiar with the ship's layout despite only being aboard for 2 days. She spoke as they moved, her voice low to avoid detection. On Earth, humans weren't apex predators. We didn't have the claws or teeth or strength to take down large prey in direct combat. So we evolved a different strategy. We tracked prey over vast distances. We followed them for hours, sometimes days. We didn't need to be faster. We just needed to keep going after the prey had exhausted itself. Eventually, the animal would collapse from heat exhaustion or fatigue, and we'd close in for the kill. We won through endurance, not strength. That sounds inefficient, Texron muttered, though his tone was more thoughtful than dismissive now. It kept us alive when nothing else would, Maya replied. They reached a junction point, and she held up a hand signaling for silence. Voices echoed from around the corner, harsh and aggressive in a language the translator struggled to interpret. Pirates, moving in patrol formation. Maya's eyes tracked the corridor layout, noted the environmental controls. Saw the possibilities. She pointed to a vent cover overhead, then at herself, then made a series of hand gestures that Vexter recognized as military signals for flanking maneuvers. The Kryn commander felt a jolt of surprise. This human knew combat tactics. Real ones, not just theoretical knowledge from diplomatic training. He nodded and positioned his warriors, preparing for the ambush. Maya pulled herself up into the ventilation shaft with an ease that belied her earlier appearance of fragility. Vexter heard her moving through the ductwork, her small size once again proving advantageous in tight spaces where his warriors could never fit. The pirate patrol rounded the corner, 4 heavily armed hostiles moving in standard formation, weapons raised and eyes scanning for threats. They never looked up. Mia dropped from the vent directly onto the rear guard. A massive Gorthian who stood 7 feet tall and outweighed her by at least 200 pounds. She landed on his shoulders, wrapped her legs around his neck, and used her body weight to throw him off balance. They went down together, and Maya's hand found the Gorthian's weapon, twisted it upward, and fired 3 shots into the ceiling panels. Sparks and debris rained down, and in the confusion, Vexter and his warriors attacked from the front. The fight was brief and brutal. The Kryn warriors were trained soldiers, and with surprise on their side, they overwhelmed the patrol in seconds. But Vexter watched Maya throughout the engagement, and what he saw shook something fundamental in his understanding of combat. The human had been thrown against a wall by the Gorthian, hard enough that Vexter heard the impact. She'd hit the metal bulkhead with a sound that should have incapacitated her, maybe broken bones. Instead, she rolled with the impact, came up favoring her left side but still moving, still fighting. When another pirate lunged at her with a knife, she didn't retreat. She moved into the attack, accepting a cut across her forearm to get inside the pirate's guard. Blood welled from the wound, bright red against her pale skin, but Maya's expression didn't change. She used the pirate's momentum against him, redirected his knife hand into his own thigh, and left him screaming on the floor. The entire sequence took maybe 3 seconds. The patrol was neutralized. Vexter's warriors secured the prisoners while he approached Maya, who was examining her wounded arm with clinical detachment. The cut was deep, bleeding freely, and had to hurt tremendously. "You need medical attention," Vexter said that Maya pulled an emergency medical kit from her uniform pocket, extracted a tube of something, and squeezed gel directly into the wound. She hissed through her teeth but kept working, sealing the injury with practiced efficiency. "Earth biology," she said, noticing his stare. "High pain tolerance, fast clotting factors, redundant healing processes. We evolved to keep going even when injured because stopping meant dying. On Earth, if you couldn't function through injury, you didn't survive long enough to pass on your genes." "You're bleeding," Chekshon said, stating the obvious but sounding disturbed by how little it seemed to bother Maya. "I've bled before. I'll probably bleed again before this is over." "It's fine." Maya tested her arm, flexing the fingers to ensure the tendon still worked. Satisfied, she picked up the Gorthian's dropped weapon and checked its charge. "We have maybe 5 minutes before someone notices this patrol didn't report in. We need to move." They continued toward the docking bay, moving faster now. Twice more they encountered pirate patrols, and twice more Maya demonstrated tactics that Vexer had never seen in any formal military training. She used the environment as a weapon, overloading power conduits to create barriers of sparking electricity, venting atmosphere from sealed sections to create wind strong enough to knock opponents off balance, even reprogramming a maintenance drone to create a distraction while they flanked from another direction.